Good afternoon. My name is George Swann. I'm a member of the Independent Study Mentorship at Clear Falls High School under the instruction of Mr. Robin Holk. In this class, we have the opportunity to go into a field that we're interested in going into and study with a mentor who's in that same profession. So this and last semester, I've been in the mentorship program with Mr. Kyle Mapp in the field of music education. And some of the information that you'll see in this presentation does come from outside sources, but it will be documented appropriately. So the most valuable thing that I've gotten out of this mentorship is the experience of learning how to teach. I'm excited to be able to take what I've learned from this class and from Mr. Mapp and use it in my job in the fall as a technician for the Clear Falls Marching Band. So a little bit about me. I was born in Austin, Texas. I've been a member of the band all throughout my schooling years. I'm on camp staff at a summer camp over the summer. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I plan on earning my bachelor's degree in music education from the University of Houston Moore School of Music. And my end goal is to be a high school or middle school band director. My mentor, as I said, Mr. Kyle Mapp, he has his bachelor's degree in music education from the University of Houston. He is taught in Cypress Fairbanks Independent School District, Austin Independent School District, and now in Clear Creek Independent School District. The first time I met him was at a saxophone masterclass, actually, with, it was a summer camp the summer after my freshman year, and I knew him then as Kyle, but now he's Mr. Mapp. And he's very likable and successful in all of his bands, and he actually grew up going to the same camp that I work for now, and he is also an Eagle Scout. So about why I wanted to go into this mentorship is I've had some sort of musical education all my life, whether that's been in elementary school singing in the choir or all throughout middle school and high school in the band. And so I just really have a love for music. And then when I was on camp staff, I found out that I really love to teach as well. And I picked Mr. Mapp because I knew him already from the summer camp, saxophone summer camp, and he really is a genius with teaching music. So my mission statement for this semester and last semester was through my experience in music and through being in this mentorship with a mentor that knows exponentially more than I do, I want to learn as much as I can about the theory and pedagogy behind music education so that I can teach others this thing I've grown so fond of, music. This is a quote that Mr. Mapp told me early on in the last semester, in the fall semester, when we were talking about just stuff about the job. And he said, "Every day I get to come into work and teach kids music. That's awesome." So for this class, we had to develop a website so we could use it as our platform for our presentation. So this is my website for my mentorship. Here you see another quote by Mr. Mapp: "Don't give your students a fish, teach them how to fish." So he told me this during a lesson that I was teaching my first semester, and I was kind of just telling them, in this measure, you play like this, and I was modeling how to play it. And he said, "Don't give your students a fish, teach them how to fish." And I really didn't understand at the time until this semester when I was teaching the ensemble that I'm used for my final product, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And I was telling them this is how you play this, and I was modeling for them, and I was trying to show them, and they kept on messing it up farther along in the music. And so that kind of clicked. I'm like, oh, that's what he meant by that, about teach your students the concepts behind it and teach them how to figure out how to play the music instead of just modeling it and spoon-feeding it to them. So a little bit more about me. Like I said, I was born in Austin. I moved to the Seabrook area in 1999. I was in the elementary school choir at Edward Elementary. I was in the beginner saxophone class of 2009 at Seabrook Intermediate. And then I was in the top band at Seabrook my 7th and 8th grade year. My freshman year at Clear Falls High School was very successful. The marching band was only one place away from going to state. And I was in the symphonic band this year under the direction of Mr. Dean Beltram. Then in my sophomore year, again, the marching band was very successful. I was again in the symphonic band with Mr. Beltram. But this year, Mr. Doug Eager and Adrian Washburn introduced me to a new style of music, jazz. And I really, really fell in love with that and still do that. And I even started up a little saxophone quintet that year to play around Christmas time with some of my friends, and we played at some retirement homes and at some city celebrations, stuff like that. And then my junior year, I finally made the wind ensemble under the direction of Mr. Jerry Choate. And at the Team A Region 17 contest, I ended up placing 5th overall, and I played in the region concert under the direction of Mr. Shane Goforth. Then now this year, in my senior year, I'm still in the wind ensemble, but now under the direction of Mr. Dean Beltram. And I placed 4th this year at the Region 17 concert, and I played in the region concert under the direction of Mr. Daniel Galloway. And I have accepted a job as a marching technician for the Clear Falls Marching Band 2015-16 season, and I'm thrilled to have this opportunity to get my career in music education started right out of high school. So after my sophomore year, like I said, I started serving on camp staff at a summer camp over the summer, and this is where I really found my love of music. And so when I was thinking about something to go into when I was told that I had to grow up and go to college and get a job, I was thinking something in the education field, and then combining that with my love for music, I thought that music education would be a good thing for me. And so when I heard about this program, the Independent Study Mentorship Program, I was very excited about that, and so I enrolled in that. So Mr. Mapp has his bachelor's degree in music education. He teaches the Symphonic 1 band here at Bayside Intermediate School and assists with the Symphonic 2 band. He also teaches the beginning flute, clarinet, oboe, bassoon, and saxophone class. He has taught in the Cypress Fairbank Independent School District and Austin Independent School District, and his bands have always been very successful. So, a little bit about music education. I'm sure, as all of you know, a career in music education can be both very challenging and very rewarding. The responsibilities include teaching the students about reading music and playing their instrument. Most students will come to the program with little to no background in music, and music educators must work towards getting these students proficient enough on their individual instruments in order to be able to play in a large ensemble with other band members. A band director is often a student's favorite teacher, at least they always were for me, and this profession, a director must be able to really connect with their students in a unique way. So throughout this and last semester, I had to come up with a series of goals to keep me on track. So last semester, my goals were pretty much all focused around music education with band music and teaching beginners. But this semester, I've shifted to more of music education with ensemble music. So my first goal for this semester was to teach the entirety of a saxophone ensemble to Symphonic 1 saxophones with some assistance from my mentor, and then direct them at their ensemble competition. So I actually have a copy of the sheet here, the judging sheet from that contest. So I prepared an ensemble piece entitled Dream with them, and composed by Austin Houston. And as you can see, they did very well on that, and they ended up getting a superior rating. So that was my first goal. My second goal was to analyze the production of that saxophone ensemble, discuss it with mentors and other music educators about techniques to make the instruction and product a higher quality. And then my third goal was to reteach the ensemble and then they play at the solo ensemble competition, and then play that at a saxophone camp, and that was my final product, is their performance at that saxophone camp. So also throughout the semester, to learn a little bit more about the field that we were in, we had to do some research. And these are all, on the left-hand side of the screen, these are all the links to my actual research summaries that look just like this with the citation at the top. I just have them in a more aesthetically pleasing format this time. So the first research I did, the article talked a lot about attention to details. They're required to be a successful music educator. And a quote that I pulled out of that was, the key to being a successful music educator is be completely observant about everything your students are doing. It's all about the details. And the second research summary I did, it talked a lot about the importance of fundamentals. And the quote that I pulled out of that one was, "The first priority of a music educator is to make sure the students understand all the basic fundamentals." And I can see this a lot in the band that I'm in over at Falls with Mr. Beltram. Every day, no matter what we're playing, we always go through a meticulous warm-up with a lot of emphasis on fundamentals. And I can really see that that pays off in the long run. And the third one, this article was specifically talking about articulation and how when beginners are first starting, the educator has to be pay very close attention to how they sound to determine if their articulation is correct, since, and as the quote says, you can't see inside of your students' mouths. So it related it back again to the first one about the attention to details and how much it takes to really focus on that. So back to talking to music educators, I did a series of interviews with other music professionals. And I kind of was, when I started to do this, I was kind of thinking back to when my band director, Mr. Mapp, pulls in other professionals in the field of education to get their opinion on how they're doing with their band, and then ask for their advice for how they can do better. So through the past semester, I've interviewed a number of professionals in the field of music education that I respect the opinion of, and have asked them a series of questions. The most informative question was their response to, what is the most important thing for me to know going into this field of music education? So the first person I talked to was Mr. Washburn. Mr. Adrian Washburn is the orchestra director at Clear Falls High School. He has his undergraduate degree in music performance from the University of Houston, and then earned a master's degree from Concordia University with an educational administration. And I talked to him first about conflict in the classroom, because I can see, as he's the jazz band director, and I've seen when there is some sort of conflict or some tension going on during the instruction period, I've always noticed that he's handled it very well. And so I asked him about that, and he said the best way to divert the problem of conflict in the classroom is to plan your lesson to take up the whole class period. Because the students are busy learning, then there will be no conflict to deal with. And the second question I was talking to him about was, when the beginners are starting, or when anybody really is starting to play, and throughout their career, what's the thing that kind of frustrates him the most, or if he could change one thing about it, how would he deal with that? And he said that the younger kids, he usually doesn't get frustrated with, because they're beginners, they're really wanting to learn, and they're still getting into that. But the older ones that he sees potential that they have, but they're too lazy, or they just don't want to do it, or whatever, seeing that potential wasted is really the biggest frustration for him. And then the most important things for him about me going into music education was to know what your goals are for the day before you start teaching, and then have goals for the whole year, and then as you're playing each lesson, keep that goal in mind. As you teach, keep that goal in mind. And then also know what you're teaching well enough so you can teach in multiple ways. He talked about having multiple tricks to teach the same thing, so if a student isn't getting it one way, then you can tell them something else, and they'll hopefully understand it that way. And then his fourth thing was, don't be a jerk, or don't yell at your kids and expect results. Relate to them without crossing the line of professionalism. So he was talking about how you have to really relate to them and have a good relationship with them, but you're still the teacher, so you can't become their friend. And the next person I interviewed was Mr. Zavala. He's the assistant band director at Clear Falls High School. He has his bachelor's degree in music education from the University of Houston. And the most important thing for him is, don't overload yourself in your first year of teaching. Have high goals and require excellence from your students, but do not set your goals so high that they can't reach them. He says about having goals is a very important aspect of teaching. And he was talking about when he first got to Clear Falls, he said, oh, I'm going to help out with the musical, I'm going to help out with the choir, and I'm going to help out with the theater, and all this stuff. And Mr. Beltram had to end up talking him down from that and say, just focus on your classes and teaching and everything, and get your first year of teaching out of the way, and then you can start adding on things so you don't get overloaded. And the third person I talked to was Mr. Matt Bell. He's the assistant band director at Alvin High School. He has his bachelor's degree in music education with an advanced certification in K through 12 education. And the most important thing for Mr. Bell was to really love the group of kids that you're working with. Everyone likes their specific age group, and that's what makes teaching the most fun. When I was talking to him, he was talking about when people ask him, what do you love the most about your job? He said it was never, oh, I really love marching band or I really love concert band. He said, I just really love the group of kids that I get to work with. So my final goal and product for this semester was the preparation of the ensemble for the master class that actually happened yesterday with the Canary Quartet and Bob Eason. So the master class was essentially a private lesson with top-notch saxophonists for the quartets that I prepared. The Canary Quartet would play a few pieces and the quartets would play, and we would continue that back and forth. So I prepared a middle school ensemble and a high school ensemble. The high school quartet played Carmen Suite by George Bizet, and the middle school again played Dream. The high school group was obviously a lot easier to prepare because I could pass out the music and say, go learn this and we'll get together. And then we'd get together and do some critiquing stuff, and then Mr. Mapp helped us one day after school and we were pretty good. But then for the intermediate schoolers, we had to work a little bit harder on that. So after the high school group played, the quartet would come up and each instrument would go to the instrument that's playing, and they would start talking to us and giving us constructive criticism on how we can play it better. And what I found very interesting is the first thing that one of them went into was he started like almost just right off the bat talking about the history about whatever song we were playing. And I asked him later in the class, I said, why did you automatically go to the history behind it besides some sort of stylistic thing? And he said that through college you have to do a lot of research about the history behind the music that you're playing, and that when he gets new pieces of music now, he almost always goes and does research on it to kind of know like what was going on in the time period when the piece was written and stuff like that. And then they gave us some information about how we can style it and stuff like that, and then we would play it again and it would almost instantaneously got a lot better. And then the middle school quartet or ensemble played, and then the same thing happened. They came up and gave them a little bit of critiques, and then we moved on from there. So overall the class I was very wowed by their performance, the Canaries' performance, and it was very helpful for all the people that played in the high school group and the intermediate school group. So in closing, the other day when I was talking to my head band director, he asked me why I wanted to go into music education to become a band director. And at the time I simply said that I really love music and really love to teach, and this class that I'm in, ISM, has locked in my desire to pursue a career in music education. And all those are very true. But after thinking about that question a little bit longer and a little bit harder, I came up with this as my extended response. I want to be a band director because he made it look so fulfilling and rewarding. And when I see Mr. Beltram teach, or Mr. Zavala, or Mr. Washburn, or Mr. Mapp, or Mr. Walls, or I've never seen Mr. Bell teach, but I'm sure it'd be the same thing, you all just seem so into what you're doing and love music and desire to teach others music really inspires me. So I want to be a part of teaching music to the next generation, and I want to be able to one day say what Mr. Mapp told me one day: every day I get to go into work and teach kids music, and that's awesome. I'd like to thank my mentor, Mr. Kyle Mapp. I've really truly enjoyed these last 2 semesters, learning how to teach from you and watching you teach. And my observers, thank you for being here. And at this time, are there any questions? Awesome. Did you? Okay, good. All right, thank you very much.